السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Inshallah, we continue with a new story. Today we have a story of King Talut. Now, who is King Talut? This is one of the stories that is mentioned to us in the Quran. Very interesting, and there is a lot of beautiful lessons to be learned from there. And it has a bit of connection with Prophet Musa as well. So the story starts with a prophet that we do not know the name of that prophet. Allah is telling us a story that had happened between the children of Israel, the children of Prophet Yaqub, okay, who had followed Prophet Musa. So this is after the time of Prophet Musa. And now Allah has been sending more prophets after Prophet Musa to them. Okay, so they have a prophet right now. This prophet, we don't know the name of this prophet. Okay, and Allah did not tell us the name of that prophet. Now, this is something that makes people baffle sometimes, or question. Like, I want to know the name of the prophet. I want to know where was he born, and I want to know more details about him. Right? It's not very satisfying for me to hear that I don't know the name of the prophet. I need more details. But when Allah tells us a story, as we mentioned in the beginning, um, He tells us a story with the intent. There is a moral to the story. There is something that Allah wants us to learn, something Allah wants us to implement, something Allah wants us to be careful of. That's why He's telling us this story. It's not for the sake of entertainment, nor is it for the sake of broadening our knowledge of all the prophets or all the previous nations. That's not the intent. Or Allah would have told us about all the nations and all the prophets, but He didn't, right? So He selected specific events and specific things that had happened to tell us details about for us to learn something. That's why when you hear something like that, or we don't know the name of the prophet, don't be taken back by it. So this prophet was a prophet to the children of Israel, of course, giving them the message of Allah, teaching them about who Allah is. And as you remember, the children of Israel would give the prophets hard time, just like they give Prophet Musa hard time, right? They give him a lot of hard time, Prophet Musa actually, and the Prophet Messenger ﷺ told us that he was harmed a lot by them. Um, if you remember, like one of the things that they say, make another god for us, them making a god after Prophet Musa's gone. So many disobedience and so many wrong thinking that they have going on during the time of Prophet Musa. So similarly, this is happening here. So they're coming to their prophet and they're asking him, make a king for us, like ask Allah to grant us a king. We want someone to lead us, right? And when they ask him for this, right, because they say we want to fight, because the children of Israel were being oppressed, okay? So they needed someone to lead them so they can fight. So then he said to them, the prophet said to them, I am afraid for you, right, that if fighting was prescribed upon you, and Allah does send you a king, you wouldn't be able to fight, and then you will become sinful. So they said to him, don't worry, just ask Allah. We'll be good. We'll fight. We'll definitely fight. You have our word. So the Prophet asked Allah to grant him a king. And Allah did grant him a king. Now this king was by the name of Talut. Now it's not a prophet, but this is a king to lead the people, right? A warrior, a king, a leader to lead the people, gather them together, put the plan, execute the plan. So the prophet, of course, is given the news about this king. He tells the people, okay, here is the king that Allah had selected for you. This is Talut. This is the one that Allah had appointed for you to be your king. The children of Israel did not like that because he was too normal for them. He wasn't a wealthy individual. He wasn't famously among them with a high lineage type of thing, just a regular person. So they didn't like that. What makes him above us? What makes this person, this guy, a leader? He's no different than any of us, right? So the Prophet is telling them, well, Allah chose him. Allah chose him to be your leader. That's what makes him special. He's chosen to be your leader. So they're not really liking this, right? They're objecting to it, objecting to the decree of Allah, which is to show you they're failing in a test that Allah is putting them in. So the Prophet had told them that the proof that he is really a prophet sent by Allah is that he will have this the box that will have in it the remains of Prophet Musa and Prophet Harun. Some of the belongings of Prophet Musa and Prophet Harun used to be with the children of Israel, but then they didn't have it anymore. So it seems like they maybe lost it. And it was brought to them by angels. So Allah sent angels bringing this this box to them to prove to them this is a true king that Allah had appointed. So accept his rulership. So when they see that, they do accept his rulership, right? And this is the part where I told you there is a connection between this story and Prophet Musa, right? So you see that the children of Israel still obviously consider Prophet Musa as a very important figure for them, right? Because he's the one who was able to lead them out of Egypt and so on, and he was their teacher for years. So anyway, as this king gathers them, and he takes them as an army to go and fight this enemy that have been oppressing them. So they go with him. The army goes on with him. He marches towards this ruler, this oppressive ruler, and his army to fight. So they come by a river, and it seems like Allah had inspired this king to test these soldiers, right? So the king said to the soldiers, if you drink from this river, right? So the soldiers are pretty thirsty, right? If you drink from this river, don't follow me, right? Only if you take a sip or two, then you can follow me, or if you don't drink at all, of course. Otherwise, if you are a person that's going to drink from this river, do not follow me. So many of them ended up over drinking from this river. So his army had shrunk a lot, right? Few people only are left. Now, after this, as they continue marching, they end up meeting the enemies. When they see the enemies, of this other party, they see that their number is huge, their big number compared to them. And this caused many of them to be fearful, right? To be fearful and saying that their number is too big. So some of this little bit that's left, the ones that have belief, say that this is nothing, right? All the time, a small group, right, if they're believers, can win against a big group. This is nothing. Right? We believe in Allah, we trust in Allah. Nevertheless, a chunk of this army had also ran away, and the King Talut had only some of the soldiers or some of his army, a small portion of his army, still remaining. And these are the ones he fought with, and they were able to win. What is the moral of the story? There's a lot of unpacking into the story, beautiful things here. One of the things that we see here is that the accepting the decree of Allah, things sometimes may not make sense. So, well, before even that, asking for something that you maybe cannot handle. There is a saying, is like, be careful what you wish for. There's a saying, be careful what you wish for. There is a saying that when you dream Be cautious about what you dream about, what you wish for. Why should you be cautious? Because this dream may come true and you wouldn't be able to handle it or be harmful for you. Right? So be careful what you wish for, because you may be asking for something that you cannot handle. You may be asking for something that you cannot handle. And these children of Israel, for example, as you saw, they're coming to ask the Prophet, right, that give us a king so we can fight and stuff. They ended up not fighting, running away, right? Not fighting. The majority of them disobeyed the leader, even though they're the ones who asked for a leader. And the Prophet warned them, maybe you ask for a king, but you're not going to be able to follow through of what's, what it takes to have a king, right? Maybe you're not going to be able to fight. Don't ask for a fight if you're not going to be able to handle it. Say, no, we can handle it. But they underestimated. They cannot handle it, and they were not able to handle it. Also, we see here that if Allah chose something, right, like Allah decreed something, we should trust Allah's decree, even if it doesn't make sense. Talut was a normal man, right? Not special, like, according to the people. But yeah, Allah chose him, right, to be the leader over the people, which it didn't make sense to them. What makes him special? What makes him special is Allah chose him. That's what makes him special. And Allah knows best. He knows about what Talut is and how important Talut is and how capable Talut is more than any of us. So if he chose him, then we trust Allah's decision. And this also goes to our personal life. Sometimes we lose someone that we like, or we lose something. Yeah, we lose something that we like. We lose someone that we love, or things don't go our way, and we don't like it. We object to it. We're upset. But you need to remember that Allah knows best. So if He took something that we like, or He's given us an outcome in life that we're not really pleased with, or we don't really understand, we don't see it to be good, we need to trust Allah's decree, because Allah is the all-knowing and He knows, and we don't. Also, we see from this that the testing of the leader, Islamically, we are supposed to listen to our leader, right? As so long as this leader does not ask us to do anything sinful, then we are to obey this leader. And this obedience to the leader is part of Islam, meaning part of the worship of Allah is that you obey your leader. Again, as so long as this leader is not asking us to do something bad. Why is that? To keep things in order. Because if the people listen to the leader is going to be able to rule the people, and therefore he'll be able, they were able to prosper and do good and advance. So that's why it is important for people to listen to the leader. We also see that the people who had strong belief in Allah, even though mathematically it doesn't make sense that a small group of people will win against a big group of people. It doesn't make sense if one person will win against 4 people. But if you trust in Allah, you believe in Allah, then Allah's on your side. It doesn't matter. 4, 5, 6, doesn't matter. It's not a mathematical problem here, right? It's a matter of the heart, and it's a matter of the support of Allah, things that you cannot see. And during the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's time, vast majority of the times, almost all the time, every single war that had taken place with the Muslims, except for maybe one, the Muslims were always outnumbered by 3 to 1, 5 to 1, as big as 173 to 1, right? So huge differences, but they won almost every time. Because Allah was supporting them and Allah was there for them. So that's what we should do with with the trust in Allah, or not relying on, like, again, mathematical problems and things of that sort. If we have Allah on our side, we're not worried. And like we said, the obedience, right, of the ruler, right? And also you see here is the testing. Sometimes you don't understand why the Talut asked these people to not drink from the water. perhaps to test their discipline. Are you a disciplined individual? Right? Because Islam means what? Submission, surrender, right? So you submit to Allah, you surrender to Him. If Allah asks you to do something, even if that doesn't necessarily make sense to you or you don't understand the wisdom per se, you are to do it, right? And that's what Islam is all about. And that's what some of the soldiers have done. The believers, the true believers, they didn't drink. But they could have asked, like, why? What's wrong with the water? Why can't I drink? Right? But they didn't ask that. They just did it, right? And I'm not referring, obviously, I'm not comparing, Talut to Allah, but you understand the concept now. So this is what we see here, that this is another beautiful lesson here. This is the lesson of submission, right? The lesson of submission. All right, inshallah, we pause here with the story and we continue with another story next time, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu